There are a large number of former officials in the U.S. government that have spoken out publicly and very strongly in favor of doing this. You have a group of distinguished colleagues here from the U.S. that you've heard from and that you will hear from that will say the same thing today. Hundreds of members of our Congress that have sent the same word to the State Department. So indeed, I think the State Department's unfair listing has been what has muzzled a very strong voice for the Iranian people when their voices need to be heard the loudest. When the Iranian people cry for freedom, the MEK is the voice through which they should be heard. And then finally, there is the very pressing issue of Camp Liberty. As we have seen from the Maliki government in recent days, they have not honored the agreement that they signed up to. And now we see Maliki's true colors flying when it comes to honoring the commitment that he made the UN regarding the movement of Ashraf residents to Camp Liberty. Recently, Maliki referred to the residents as terrorists and criminals and stating publicly that none of Ashraf residents will remain in Iraq by April. Recently, we saw Maliki issue the arrest warrants that were referred to earlier for 121 Ashraf residents on the charge of involvement in terrorist actions. Last week, he and his forces denied entry of special beds for paralyzed patients residing at Ashraf. In my book, that one action alone constitutes inhumane treatment, and if not in the category of cruel and unusual punishment against humanity. It just shows what the UN is now dealing with in terms of the Maliki government. And today, in spite of the UN agreement that Maliki signed, the conditions at the camp are deplorable and not even close to being fit for human beings to reside in. You know, Camp Liberty was never at its height a very pretty place. It, in fact, was a former U.S. base, and that U.S. base was looted when the U.S. departed. It now has dilapidated trailers, no water, no electricity. It lacks basic infrastructure, no recreational areas, not a tree in sight. It resembles a prison camp, and as Mayor Giuliani said earlier, it's a half a kilometer large. And now the Iraqis are constructing a 3.6-meter concrete wall around that 0.5 kilometer area. It truly resembles a prison. So what must happen? Ambassador Kobler, the UNSG special rep, must bring the violations of the MOU to the attention of the Secretary General and to the Security Council. That's what Ambassador Kobler gets paid to do if Maliki doesn't comply with the MOU. The Iranians are behind the breaches in the MOU. So dealing with Maliki as if he's an honorable man is not going to lead to an honoring of the MOU, rather than it's going to continue to lead to a downward slide in terms of preparing the camp for the residents. The Iranians do not want a peaceful solution. In fact, we all know what the Iranians want. The Iranians want to destroy the MEK. So by not letting Maliki agree, and by Maliki not agreeing, then they in essence are setting the stage for another crisis in April. If the UNHCR, if UNAMI, if the United States remains silent on this issue, then we are complicit. We are as guilty as Maliki is. The U.S. must play a more active role, using coercive diplomacy where required, rather than a laid-off or hands-off type of diplomacy, which we have been using with the Maliki government up till this point. Dealing with Maliki, it is obvious that the Iranian approach is considerably more effective than the United States' is, and yet the United States continues to pour millions of dollars into Iraq, not to mention the lives and the blood of our U.S. servicemen and women that went there to give the Iraqi people a chance at democracy and freedom. In the United States, only when the Obama administration and the State Department strategists start dealing with the facts about the Iranian regime and its opponents, only when we delist the MEK, and only when we use more forceful diplomacy to ensure that Maliki honors the UN agreement will we encounter success and be in a position to win the war. Thank you very much.